Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. We are back on Sandra's Sells and Tells, Real Estate, Real People, Real Plymouth. Today's episode is one every buyer and honestly, every homeowner needs to hear. I'm joined by Cindi Gordon from Loan Depot, a trusted mortgage professional who helps guide buyers through one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives. From pre-approvals to navigating interest rates, loan programs, and everything in between, Cindi brings clarity to a process that can feel often overwhelming. We're breaking it all down today so you feel more confident, prepared, and ready to make your next move. Cindi, so happy to have you here. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here, Sandra.
Awesome. All right, so let's get started. Very simple question. What exactly does a mortgage lender do?
So a mortgage lender, we just do residential financing. So basically we communicate with borrowers, get all of their information, and then research the hundreds of loan products, send them all their feedback, give them a pre-approval, and that pre-approval is basically the ticket to go out and start house hunting.
Okay, so you just said hundreds of products. So there's not just one or two products out there. Mortgage is for people when they are thinking of buying a house. Is that correct?
Every individual is so different. So when someone's like, hey, what's your rate? Or like, hey, I got this or did this. The best way to figure out what you qualify for is to give someone like me all of your information, tell me everything like I'm your attorney, and then I will, kind of go through everything and suggest the top ones that I think you should go for.
Okay, very good. And when should someone really start to talk to a lender?
I get this question very often. I would say if you want to purchase a house in the next 3 years, and I know that sounds crazy, but there are some things that you can do ahead of time that will put you in a much better position down the line. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I wish I knew that. But by the time they know, they're actually, going to hunt.
Right. So you can kind of help people like you're not quite ready now, but let's put a plan in place to get you ready in a year from now, 2 years from now.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So what exactly does getting pre-approved actually mean?
So getting pre-approved makes sure that your income, your credit, your assets, what you have available, to put down for a down payment, and having it all looked at by a licensed loan officer, sometimes an underwriter. We can get you in front of an underwriter too, which makes your offers stronger. But we take your whole financial scenario and, give you the letter, again, the golden ticket to go hunting. It's the loan, right? So you're just like window shopping if you don't have the money. So it's securing the money for the purchase, and then there's all those steps along with it.
All right. Lots of steps involved, it sounds like.
We make it easy.
Okay. That's what I want to hear. That's what those listening want to hear. So what factors affect someone's buying power the most?
Ooh, I would say credit is a big one, and co-signing on people's debt that when you don't have your own goals situated. I've seen a lot of people just like co-sign for friends or kids or, with a $500 car payment. And then, now they can't buy the house in the price point that they wanted because of it. So, just be careful when you're co-signing or accumulating large car payments. I've seen some pretty crazy ones, like $700 to $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
That's like a baby mortgage. So
it is.
So if you don't want to live in your car.
And I've told people that before too, like depending on what your car payment is, you could be getting more house. So you're basically saying affecting their buyer's power is how much like their monthly payments are or on other things?
Yeah, the debt. And then as your debt increases, your credit score typically goes down. So they kind of work hand in hand.
So credit score is super important, or is it not?
Credit score is very important. We don't have a minimum credit score at Loan Depot. We're the only lender that I know that doesn't. We really look at the total risk. But yeah, having higher credit is going to get you into lower rates, and better products.
So the higher the credit, the lower the rates.
Not in all scenarios.
Okay.
There's some caveats for first-time home buyers. If you're in like a certain income limit and only one out of the two borrowers needs to be a first-time home buyer, and you're actually a first-time home buyer if you haven't owned in 3 years, which a lot of people don't know. So you get your first-time home buyer, status back after you haven't owned for 3 years.
That's a good little tip.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So if it's been 3 years since you owned a house, you can qualify as a first-time homeowner.
Yeah, and some of those, the rates are almost a point lower. So there may be some people out there with lower credit getting lower rates than the people with higher credit. So that's why it's so specific, like to the individual, like what your rate just like isn't a thing.
Okay, good to know. And what's one thing buyers do that hurts them financially without even realizing it? I think you touched a little bit upon that with being a co-signer
Yeah,
for a
just
friend or family member, but what else?
pay attention to your monthly payments. I just had one of my I babysat him, aging myself. Makes plenty of money, has plenty of money in the bank, and he just got busy and he missed like a little tiny payment on a credit card and it knocked down his credit 100 points. And he called me freaking
Oh
out.
boy.
So that's something you definitely don't want to do is be late if you can, help it.
Set up those automatic payments so
Yeah.
you're not late, right? Because it's easy to forget it. So if you set it and forget it, I learned that once too because I was late on something once.
It
and I
happened
was
to me
like,
once
"What?
too.
No. Everyone asks about rates, which we just talked about. Should they be thinking about them right now? If now's not the time for them to buy or they're getting ready? What? I know that's like a loaded question, and you can't probably really answer that. But
I actually can, Sandra.
okay,
So
okay,
about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were at the lowest rates in the last, for the last 3 years. So really, really good time. A lot of people were refinancing. We're up about a half a point from them. There's no rate cuts predicted anymore for this year, but we're in this like global chaos right now where gas prices are high and things are high. So I believe that the market will settle back down to where they were a few, weeks ago. But what I'm saying to my clients getting under contract is lock the rate, because if it moves and you think they're going to go down and it's not before your closing date, it could affect your monthly payment, it could affect you qualifying. So I really don't get risky if someone's under contract. But I think they'll come back down. But you can always refinance.
That's very true. So from your perspective as a lender, kind of what you're just saying, should people continue to wait or just go ahead and buy if you're ready and you're looking, because it can come down and you can refinance?
Yeah, I mean, especially in Plymouth, we're looking at like a 3 to 5% appreciation a year. I mean, if you wait a year, the house you want is probably going to be up between $50,000 and $30,000. And if you're just getting like a quarter lower on rate and you're saving $100 a month, it's going to take you like 16 years to make up for that. So you're better off taking the appreciation down the line for a refinance, to get the lower rate. So I believe if the monthly payment works and if you're in the, nobody wants to rent forever, that's crazy. Real estate's how you make money in this country.
It's true. Don't pay somebody else's investment, right? Have your own.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's all different types of loan programs, FHA, conventional, VA. Who helps decide what's best for them or you?
So I definitely guide people. The veteran loan is in my opinion, the best loan out there, and rightfully so, because they've earned it. But there are a lot of unique scenarios, like, people that are self-employed, maybe they don't show enough on their taxes, or, I can actually do people that don't even have a job, but they have a down payment. And the house kind of, pays for itself if you're going after a multifamily. So my first conversation with the client is, what's your story? What's your goal? Because I invest as well. So if I know their long-term goals, I can, take chunks off of that and help them hit them in strides.
All right. Very good. So what are some programs that people don't even know exist?
The VA renovation loan.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know that even exists at all. So Loan Depot actually created the program with the VA.
No kidding. That's great.
Yeah. So we're the only lender that has it like wide open. There are a couple lenders that have it with like very tight restrictions. But that's a great product. I just had a conversation with the veteran, earlier today that's in the trades now. And he's like, I want, to do renovation, and he knows a bunch of people. So just any renovation loan, you can buy a house and turn it into what you want. So there's really no barriers to buy.
Okay. And I know that every lender has different products and different programs, like some for first responders, things like that. Does Loan Depot carry those as well, too?
So we have strategic partners that do have the first responders discounts. We have, I think it was 900 down payment assistant programs the last time I looked. So we're national. We're pretty massive. If we can't do it, it probably can't be done, is what I always say. I mean, we really put the effort in to look into the scenario. And, if someone wants to buy a house, like, I'll do everything I can to get them into
Find
one.
them and the right program for it.
Yep.
Okay, great to know. How can buyers position themselves to win in a competitive market?
So
aside from having a great real estate agent on their side to help them negotiate and do things like that, how can you help them?
yeah, I mean, it's all on who you know sometimes, and we're local. Our branch does a lot of business in the Plymouth, county area. So for my buyers, I just make sure that they're, they know what their payments are. We try to run stuff on Thursdays. So if you have to make an offer over the weekend, which is typical, you can do that with confidence. And then I call the listing agent, tell them how solid they are. I pretty much give them the best shot that they can and the confidence level on my end. And I say, no deal ever dies on my table.
And that's very true. When I even have the listing side and I see offers come in and it's Loan Depot, if it's not through you, but one of your lenders in your office that you manage, I know that every, I has been dotted, every T has been crossed, and that you guys do everything you can to get it to the closing table. Because at the end game is we all want to get to the closing table. So
yeah, I mean, it's an important job that some people take for granted, and we just don't, because it's a house. It's not like they're buying a car. So I'm glad that you see that.
I do, and it's honestly very true. And I've been working with you for years, so I know. Kind of back, still touch on that. So that's one thing, your follow up and your follow through, and helping, reaching out to the list agent, which is huge too. Nope, this buyer's solid. You don't have to worry. That helps with the peace of mind. But what is the piece about, like you mentioned this earlier, about kind of get them to the underwriting stage ahead of time? What is that? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so we pretty much do that with every buyer that we have. We'll send an initial pre-approval, which just means it's reviewed by like my team. And then once we have, all the documentation, which is typically at the pre-approval, we'll send it in to be reviewed. It's called a TBD commitment. The TBD is just the address to be determined.
Yep.
So you go in front of an underwriter, your credit, income, assets gets reviewed. So when you make an offer, I'm able to say, this client's already been reviewed, all their income, assets, and credit is signed off on. The only thing I need is for the house to pass, so clean title and appraisal, and we're done. So it's pretty much the closest thing you can get from cash.
And that helps going in, presenting an offer, saying, hey, they've already gone through this stage of the pre-approval process. It's not just a quick hit that some people try to find online. It does not work.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, let's stay away from those. So talk to a local lender always. All right, let's talk about some mistakes that people should avoid. What are you seeing the biggest one that most buyers make?
I think the biggest mistake people make is assuming they can't buy before they check with somebody like me.
That is so true, because people are like, there's just no way. But then you see everything else that they're paying, and you're like, this could be a house that you're owning and building equity in.
Yeah, first, last, security. That could be your closing costs, and you could have a no down payment loan, or you can have a no closing cost and no down payment loan. There's just a lot of things out there that
they're helpful for
Google,
buyers.
Yeah, Googling is just not going to give you the same, service that someone like our team would do.
Yeah, so call and reach out and
try.
Figure out what it is.
Make a 5-year plan.
The worst you can say is like, hey, let's put you on a plan. You're not ready this year, but you might be next year if you do this, this, and this.
Well, you might be. And you might be like, yay.
Yeah.
Then I can refer you to Sandra.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so I know this is coming into play, and there's a lot of funny memes or reels about it, but what should buyers not do after getting pre-approved? The offer is accepted, and we're waiting to get to the closing table. What should they not do? I know.
They should not withhold any information from their lender with any financial moves like changing employment, buying a car, co-signing on your girlfriend or boyfriend's loan because you want to be nice. It could cost you the house.
Right. So during that process, don't. I've had people, can we go charge our new furniture? No, don't. Don't do anything yet until you hear we are on record.
I had a washer and dryer.
We have a clear to close.
A family went out and financed it right before they closed. Very hard deal. This was like 15 years ago. And they had like a $400 payment, and it went into a denial, and they had to go return it.
Oh, no. Yeah. So make your list of what you want to buy for the new house, but do not do it until you have a clear to close, right? And how many days before is the general rule of the clear to close, which means everything's been approved?
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally, you don't want to go and spend any big money until you're on record. So the lender can do like a soft check before closing, and it can be within 5 to 7 business days. So I couldn't tell you when they're going to do that. And if you went and financed something and it shows up, it could kick it back into underwriting after the clear to close.
All right. But when do they generally get the clear to close? Before closing? How many days before?
2 or 3 weeks right now, but generally like 7 to 10 days is the goal.
Okay. Very good. All right. What do you love most about what you do?
I love that everybody has their own story. Like everyone has their own goals. I'm never bored ever.
True.
And it like keeps my brain fresh. I'm learning something new every day. We're like, what? We didn't know that. I've been doing this 23 years, and to still get to learn at your job and not be bored. That's my favorite part because I'm high energy.
Yeah, that's true. I say that too about real estate. I help people write their story, right? It could be their first chapter. They could be changing the chapter and upsizing, or it could be they could be right sizing, and it's the last chapter for that house that they raised a family in.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a great lender-client relationship?
I think what sets us apart, like my team, is we're very detailed and there are no surprises. Surprises are fun if they're like birthday parties, but if you forget to tell your clients that there's closing costs and prepaid items and you only talk about the down payment and that sort of thing. So we over communicate with our clients, let them know that they can reach out anytime. If you need to send us 10 houses you're going to look at, we want you being comfortable going into the weekend. And, that's our job. So just letting them know they're not bothering us and encouraging them to ask questions rather than trying to answer them on their own, which may just create more chaos.
This is very true. And are you guys available on the weekend? Because that is when most buyers are looking.
We are available on the weekend, but the goal is for all of our buyers to have what they need in their hands and be prepared before the weekend, because I have a family as well. You have a family. Will I get on a call with somebody new, or, if their lender's not replying? Of course. But my buyers are prepared going into the weekend. So we don't have any fire drills like that usually.
That's fantastic. First-time buyer advice in one sentence. First-time buyer advice in one sentence.
You don't always listen to family and friends because everyone's scenario is different. And your parents may not have bought for 30 years and they probably needed 20% down and had a 15% rate. So parents are great, guidance is great, but take everything with a grain of salt. And when you hear something that you're like, wow, ask your lender and they may tell you why you're not in that program or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Everybody knows somebody who did something, or they did it this way or that way, or somebody taught them something. So I say that too. And I get questions all the time about buyers' mortgages and their payments and that. And I'm like, that is not my lane. You please call your lender. They can help you with that. And I'm glad that you mentioned too closing costs and prepaids, because they're like, okay, I have this much money for down payment, whether it's the lowest 3.5% or 5, 10, 20. But they forget about, I'm going to need closing costs too. So
yeah, we ask, what do you have available all in for this purchase? And then we back our way into options. Sometimes we pay the closing costs and prepaid. Sometimes we don't, but that's why we what do you have? And then we work with that.
I love that. So then if they say, oh, I have this much, you're like, okay, that's great. But you're only going to put this much down because you're going to need this for closing.
Yep.
Right? I like that. So you kind of look into it. Okay. What is one myth about mortgages you want to bust right now?
That all loan officers are created equal, because we're not. And, you put me up against anyone, obviously I'm confident, I will outwork them and most likely beat them because I care that much. If someone wants to buy a house, I think that's awesome. And I encourage people to call. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get that person in a house. And you may have someone that's just not as motivated and they just don't care, or they're not in tune with the new products that are out there, because there's a lot of them and this industry changes fast. There are some people that are just kind of hanging out, not really learning new things. So if you got a no from somebody else, it might not be a no from me.
Right. So it doesn't hurt to check in with you and reach out. How does somebody reach you if they wanted to ask questions or just get the ball rolling? How do they reach you?
My cell text obviously is always the quickest way, which is 781-308-3945, or you can just type me into Google, Cindi Gordon, Cindi, Cindi Gordon Mortgage. Even if you put mortgage, comma Plymouth, I'm pretty sure I'm the first one that comes up.
All right. And Loan Depot is the name of your company.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a fun fact about you. When did you purchase your first investment in real estate?
My first house was when I was 25, and it was a 2-family renovation loan.
Okay.
So I started jumping in young.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Your parents must have taught you well.
So my brother actually owned a mortgage company when I graduated high school. So I've been in this since I was 18.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. But obviously you love what you do.
I do.
And you do it well.
Thanks.
So you continue to do it. So I like to kind of, I always end with the key of the week. But before I do, I would just like to ask you some just fun random questions. So
Okay, perfect.
What's your go-to spot in Plymouth for food?
Oof. I do like the Black Raz, but I don't want everyone to know about it because I feel like it's more of a towny spot. Summer gets busy because of the 1620 events.
Yeah.
I like the Black Raz because they have the variety and the food's delicious. Obviously, East Bay and Cabbie Shack because you stare at the water. And I like that the 71 has sushi.
Okay, sushi. Very good. Where do you go so in the morning, what's the first thing that you grab as you're walking out the door?
From my house?
Yeah. You're going to start your day. What do you grab as you're walking out the door?
My phone, my laptop.
All right. I know. I threw you off there. You didn't think I was going there.
No.
Yeah,
I'm like, pretty.
Are you a coffee drinker in the morning or tea or water?
I do water first, and then I do like half a cup of coffee, iced.
Keep you going. How do you have this much energy all day long is what I want to know.
I don't know, Sandra. I sleep well. If I call my friends past like 9 o'clock, they're like, "Are you okay?" Because I really do.
Because you're in
I
bed
gotta
early.
get my 8 hours. Yeah, and I just have balance. I have some fun, some focus time. I'm pretty balanced.
All right, that's awesome. All right, so I'm going to end thank you so much for being here, but I have a key of the week, and I always prepare this key of the week just knowing who my guest is, but I never kind of really know where the topic's always going to go. So this week, as we were talking about programs and a lender and mortgages, it is preparation equals power. The more prepared you are before you start your home search, the stronger and less stressful your experience will be. Getting connected with the right lender early doesn't just give you numbers, it gives you confidence, it gives you clarity, and it gives you a competitive edge. Today's market, being ready is not optional, it's everything. And I think that is pretty much everything you just touched on. So crazy that I had a great key of the week, but you've been super helpful. I appreciate you breaking it down for us and making it make sense, because I know a lot of people are just overwhelmed by what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know where to start. So, takeaway, it's a simple phone call to see where are you at in your story and where do you want to go? And you can put them on the path for that, whether it's I want to be ready in a week to start looking at houses or I want to be ready a couple of years from now. It's never too early to have that phone call and that connection with you and talk about different programs.
Yep.
Am I right?
100%.
Okay. So for anyone listening, this is exactly why having the right team matters. From your lender to your agent, it all makes the difference. Thank you so much for being here and listening to this week's Listen, Sandra Sells and Tells, Real Estate, Real People, Real Plymouth. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. And if you're thinking about buying, now you know where to start. See you next time.